Making food safe, available and affordable is the goal of the food security programs of the United Nations. The Global Food Security Index reveals that most African countries are still at the bottom of the food security ladder. How can Africa and Nigeria improve its global food security ranking? What are the other effective ways to increase domestic food production and also end hunger? Well, with me tonight on the news at 10 is Babajide Ogunsonwo, Channels Television's data consultant. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good evening, Melissa.
Now, the president recently talked about the progress made in physical and also food security. Do we need new policies or programs to win this war against hunger? And another question, many people are also trying to ask is, how much food do we import and what are the implications?
I hope we have enough time to go through everything. But how much food did we import 6 decades ago? I'm talking about in 1960, how much food came in through our borders? And I'll share that information with you tonight, and I think you'll be surprised. But tonight, there are 3 things I want to talk about. The first is, what is the real importance of growing local food production? The second is, why is the president eager to reduce the amount of foreign exchange we spend importing food? And the third is, what practical steps can we take to boost food production? So let's talk about the first thing, the importance, the significance of growing local food production. And if we look at the evidence that is available to us today, it tells us that there are 25 million Nigerians that are employed in the agricultural sector. In other words, food is the #1 profession in Nigeria. So 3 things will happen if we're able to grow local food production. The first is food will become more available to every Nigerian. The second is food will become more affordable because of economies of scale and scope. And the third is there will be more jobs. Now let's look at the second thing I talked about, and that is, why is the president so eager to reduce our food importation bill, especially how much foreign exchange it takes from us? And to look into the president's head, we'll have to look outside. What do I mean by looking outside? Let's look at what President Donald Trump said 19 days ago. He talked about the Federal Reserve Bank, an independent institution in the United States. He was screaming that they should lower rates. Why? Because his interest is America first. What is happening with the Brexit deal? The reason why there's been so much back and forth is because the British are looking for an agreement that considers the British man first. And with China as well, we've seen China's super explosion in the world. It's because the Chinese government is subsidizing production and undervaluing their currency. In other words, the Chinese interest first. So we should ask ourselves, shouldn't Africans and even Nigeria start considering themselves first? Because if we look at the most recent report from the Global Food report, that's the Global Food Index report, it reviews 113 countries globally. And in that report, it is no surprise that Singapore comes out as the #1 country that has the most affordable food. And within that same report, we see the countries that food, the bottom 15 countries in that report that food is most expensive is within Africa. So we need to also understand that globally countries are putting themselves first, and the president's concern really right now is also the interest of Nigerians.
So are we spending a lot in importing food and beverages?
So much. Now let's take a detailed look at how much food we're importing. And the evidence from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that last year, Millicent, we spent 1.4 trillion naira importing food and beverages. Now, let me make you understand what that number means. Within the 1 hour that you spend reading the news tonight, we'll be importing food and beverages worth 150 million naira. That is what the figure means. So clearly there is a need to be able to manage how much we import, but also grow local food production.
What is the impact? Various credit programs by the central bank, the micro, small, medium-sized businesses. A lot of people are really wondering. There's a few people have cried out at the high interest rates. What's the impact for those local farmers and entrepreneurs in all of this?
So the central bank and the government have spent a lot of put in a lot of money promoting food crops. What we will expect them going forward is also to put a lot of guarantees and a lot of credit in cash crops. So we've seen a lot of money in the past 4 years go into poultry, go into tubers, but not so much money has gone into promoting cash crops. So the central bank needs to keep an eye on new investments into cash crops. And also an eye needs to go into how much money we spend importing manufactured equipment, because manufactured equipment takes a huge chunk of all the foreign exchange earnings of this country. So the central bank needs to have more focus on cash crops as well.
Finally, when you look at the crystal ball, what does it say? The pronouncements of the president on the forex to boost local agriculture, do you see us meeting that mark rather than what economic theorists have posited on perhaps high inflation?
Looking at the crystal ball and all the evidence we have, the rate of growth of food increase or the cost of food will reduce, and in no time soon will we see a reduction in the number of items that the CBN has put on restrictions for foreign import. But I also want us to take a look at the three facts, to quickly take a look at the three facts about food in Nigeria, because then that allows us to see why the president and why the government is eager to reduce all that importation. We see a lot of imported food coming from Europe and America, which is the very first fact. We also clearly see what Nigerians love to consume. We're looking at yam, tubers, plantain, vegetables. And finally, if we look at those facts as well, we clearly also see those food items that the central bank needs to be able to put more investment in so that we're able to promote
All right, it's definitely something we'll keep talking about. Thank you so much, Babajideogunsomo, for joining us
always mine.
on the news at 10.